Jackson Radio Show.
Hey, welcome back. My name is Liz Matory. I'm filling in for Kevin Jackson on his show on KJRadio.com. So, yeah, I'm just going to talk about it again because it's, I really don't feel like talking about Stormy Daniels, so we'll talk about the children who, and I said children who, had a protest, if you will, march last weekend. I know a lot of people have talked about it. I'm not trying to, just talk about it ad nauseum, but I really wonder, and maybe you thought about it too, like teenage angst. Like, I had angst when I was a teenager. I'm sure you had angst when you were a teenager. Is this different? Is it just that they can, have different avenues to express themselves? Or is there full-on manipulation? Again, like I know I've been yelled at before about not giving these children credit. And again, I will say over and over again, they are children. It's not that I'm trying to take away from anything that these children are doing, but I had an opportunity to connect with a young woman, older girl, adolescent girl, over the weekend, and she was really upset that she wasn't participating in the march. We were doing other political activities up in Baltimore, and, she had said that her mom hadn't given her permission to go protest, and I actually know her mother, and her mother was like, I would have allowed her to go if she had a reason, but she didn't give me a reason, so why go? And again, it goes back to this concept of fitting in and how it was in high school and to an extent middle school, where if all the kids are doing it, I have to do it too. Again, shootings, school shootings, have occurred. I'm not taking away from that, but it really got me to think, like, is it different than how when we were teenagers? So I was born in 1980, and I was a teenager, if you will, in the 90s. So I took a moment to kind of think about what was going on in the news, if you will, that could have triggered us to take up arms, or not arms, metaphorical arms, not real arms. So I looked into it, and one of the first things that came up was the Branch Davidian cult, Waco, Janet Reno, and that standoff. Remember, it was like weeks and weeks. Janet Reno, our attorney general, they decided to shoot out and kill this entire cult. And so that was a big fleck point. Then, of course, in 1994, Kurt Cobain shot himself. I mean, he literally took a shotgun and I guess was able to shoot himself, or jerry-rigged it to a point where he could shoot himself, and that was huge. I mean, I was just, a freshman, and, Nirvana was huge. It was Nirvana, it was Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots. I mean, man, just take a moment and think about the amazing music that was made in the 90s. I think the 90s probably was like the last decade of great music, and I know I'm going to get a lot of pushback for that, but, Kurt Cobain's suicide was huge. That was the first time in my, personal history that I learned about, depression and, people killing themselves. I guess I had lived a life to whereas I never knew anyone personally, thank God, but Kurt Cobain was huge. We didn't take up arms and, I keep on saying take up arms. We didn't go and protest because this man, shot himself with, a firearm. And then what else happened? Yeah, by 1999 was Columbine. So yes, I was a freshman that year, in college already. But that was a huge, 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 huge moment in our American history. And it was a very jarring experience. But people, high schoolers, did not protest then. So what is it about now that you get hundreds and thousands of children to walk out of their schools during the week and then all of a sudden this weekend ascend onto the nation's capital and other major cities? And I would argue they're not only, don't forget, let's be honest, these shootings are also done by fellow teenagers who have an extreme form of this teenage angst that I was talking about. But after that, you're like, what is it about these kids? Or maybe it is several someones out there that are taking advantage of this moment in these children's lives where they feel so out of sorts and so out of place to begin with. It's almost as if they're lighting a fuse on Kindle. And if you look up the word angst, which I had to look up for just by virtue of looking it up, angst means a feeling of deep anxiety or dread, typically about a human condition or the state of the world. Yeah, we're all in angst. And maybe that's the thing. Maybe it's, mainstream media and, the technology that we have in social media that has amplified all of our angst to a point where people have now been galvanized and activated to protest. And, I don't trust communism, and nor should anyone, but that is their MO, people. They have been looking for that generation, and you go to the Naked Communists, and you go to all these books that are written, and we have to learn about the enemy. I kid you not, folks. We need to learn about what communism is, because this is what's happening. They were fiending for an American generation that they can totally manipulate. And you are seeing it firsthand, folks. And who are these kids, guys? Who are these children? And I had to do the math. So if you're 14 to 18 or even younger, you were born between the years of 2000 and 2004. These people are not millennials. They are the ones that were born into a world of 9/11. And we all have to be mindful of the fact that their entire lives, they have been underneath a world of hurt. And yes, there are people, and maybe it was by design, but this generation is totally being taken advantage of.
This is the Kevin Jackson Radio Show.